welcome back. Over the course of 9 years, our next guest went from teacher to trusted friend to one of the most beloved and famous women in the world, Princess Diana.
At just 20 years old, the People's Princess found an artistic outlet that helped her deal with the difficulties in her life. Please welcome ballet mistress, educator, and author of Dancing with Diana, Allan. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Anne, we want to dive right in and tell us about the first time you met Diana and how these dance lessons came about.
Well, it's rather a funny story. I was sitting at home quietly one evening after rehearsing, very tired, just put my daughter to bed. The phone rang in the other room. I ran to get it because she's not a good sleeper at all. And a very posh voice at the end of the line said, "Oh, hello, this is Anne Beckwith-Smith. I'm the lady-in-waiting to Princess Diana, Her Royal Highness. The princess would like to take dancing class." And then a week later, I found myself in a private studio meeting Diana for the first time.
Wow. That is incredible. All right, so your book includes excerpts from the letters Diana wrote you, and they read like they're letters between two very old, longtime friends, and she sent you some very special letters, especially after the birth of your children. Why were those ones in particular so special? And I'm curious, where do you keep those letters now?
You would laugh where they are. They're in a box. Mind you, they are tied in a ribbon, but I've always just had this box when, oh, there's a letter. There's a letter.
Nice.
But they're just so meaningful now, and particularly because she's not with us. But also at the time when you have a child, it's so wonderful when somebody just recognizes it. And she always did it with such humor. And especially for me, I have a granddaughter, Sienna, who is Victoria, my daughter's with me today. And she'd written this letter.
This is the letter?
This is the letter that she had written on Victoria's birth. And so I was able to see, give it to Victoria as a gift.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think there's something just very special about her handwriting, the fact she used emojis long before anybody else did.
She was ahead of her time.
Yes.
So in the book, Anne, you write about how you would see at times during some lessons, Diana's mood would shift, and particularly when she wasn't being treated very well by the press, for example. So how did what you were teaching her through movement maybe help her through these tough points in her life?
Well, there's something beautiful about dancing. First of all, it creates an energy through your body. And with that comes a relaxation. Your mind focuses more on the dancing, on the muscles. And from that, you extend your arms, you become free. And for me, dancing expresses the emotion in motion. And so she allowed herself to be free with me, as it was a private studio, just two ladies together. And with that, she was able to express more freely anything that was troubling her.
That's beautiful.
So around Christmas of 1985, Diana came to you with a proposition, and this was it. She wanted to perform a big number at the Royal Opera House. She wanted to dance to Uptown Girl on stage. This would be Covent Garden. How did you make this infamous performance come together for her?
Well, I loved the idea she wanted to do a performance, but to choose Covent Garden, it's one of the biggest stages in the world, 40-foot proscenium. However, there was only a couple of people that knew. Wayne Sleep, who danced with her, who choreographed it, myself, and one person that was organising the event. We told her to stay in the royal box because she also had to watch the performance. Oh, wow. And then she had to come. I met her to come downstairs to stand in the wings ready for her performance. But she was getting so anxious that she came down too early. But actually, it was a huge surprise for everybody. Nobody knew that she was going to do this.
Oh, wow.
And when she stepped on stage, she just was, the applause was tremendous. And the love from that audience was tremendous.
Wow.
That's incredible. But the big question is, how did Charles and the royal family, how did they react to her performance?
Well, I think it was perhaps tricky for Charles. I do remember getting to the reception, and of course we'd had a very quick change to get there, and we're going through meeting people. Some people are smiling, they're happy, they're congratulating her, some are a little bit more standoffish, I would say. And then, of course, we came to Charles, and Charles just said to her, "Well done, darling," and then turned to talk to somebody else. When you've done a performance and your adrenaline is pumping, you just want somebody just to talk about it for a minute, or to appreciate it.
Give you a hug and tell you it was a great
Yes,
job.
that you did all right. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yeah.
Well, speaking of her relationship with Charles, you actually wrote about an instance back in 1986. And long before it became known to us in the public, Diana actually disclosed to you that Charles was having an affair with Camilla, and that she just wanted to be loved by her husband, is what you share. What on earth do you do when Diana drops that on you?
It's very hard, but you know, if you're two ladies together in a room and a friend says to you, "I'm going through a hard time," you start by listening and trying to help, trying to advise if you can advise. This was a very different situation because it was the Princess of Wales, and anything that the press picked up on was always a terrible worry for her and for her family, for her boys particularly. She wanted so much to keep the family together. But the main thing for her is that she loved Charles. She loved him deeply, and she really was at a loss. So for me, I just wanted to be able to be there for her if I could, and be able to help when I could. But, you know, as most of us know, anybody going through that, it's turmoil, it can be quite desperate.
Well, she clearly trusted you a great deal to share that with you, that very intimate detail, knowing the kind of impact it could have had. And it seems to me that the classes were very much cathartic for her, both physically and emotionally. So what kind of an impact do you think your relationship had, or what kind of an impact did it have on you with this relationship?
Well, first of all, I hoped that it did have not an impact, but that she felt she could talk to me. It's an interesting question because it was just this last year when somebody asked me, my first draft editor, she said, "How do you hold all of this in?" And it was such a sensitive but such a good question, because the truth was there had been times it had been quite difficult. I would sometimes have a very heavy heart, because when you feel helpless, you can't help the person enough, or you feel that you can't help, and you can't share it with anybody else. There were times when it was hard, but we'd have many joyous times as well.
Some of my favorite photos of Diana are the ones that she's on the dance floor, just looking like she's having a great time with her gorgeous body and her gorgeous face. And I'm just curious, what comes to mind when you see the image of her and John Travolta at the White House? This is back in 1985. Look at her.
Well,
stunning.
I mean, like you, it's just like she's having a joy. She's just doing what she loves to do the best. But the best is when she came back, I totally expected her to talk about the president and you know, the importance of
Yes,
the...
she's at the White House, of course.
Yes. The studio doors flew open, and the first thing she said to me, "I danced with John Travolta."
I get it. John Travolta.
And that's actually who she was. That was, she was so genuine and authentic. That was the one thing she wanted to share, that she had danced with him.
That is amazing. Well, there is a story that you write about in the book where you actually at some point found yourself in Diana's flat in Kensington Palace where she lived. How did you end up in her place?
Oh, again, it was just like a little bit embarrassing actually, but I arrived at the studio, and usually I was there long before the princess because I had to prepare everything. And this particular day, I arrived, and she's sitting on the ballet bar with her feet swinging, going, "Ah, ha, ha, you thought it was 9:30, and it was 9 o'clock. So I was late for the class, which is not quite done. Anyhow, she said, "Okay, come on, let's go and have some tea." And I thought, oh, perhaps we're going out to a cafe or something. And she said, no, get in the car. We'll go back to my place. And I ended up on her pink couch in Kensington Palace, being handed tea. And it was because that was the day that Fergie announced her engagement. And she was so happy to be able to know that the press were going to focus on that. and leave her alone for a while.
Wow.
Okay, let's fast forward to your last dance lesson with Diana. What kind of shift did you see during that time? And was that the last time you and she spoke?
It wasn't the last time we spoke, but it was a big moment for me, and I think perhaps for her. But I left what I felt was a very empowered woman. Mm-hmm. We'd started in 1981. This was now 1989. She'd found the courage within herself to become the person that she was. And the most important thing to her was her duty, was the sense of making sure she could do good in the world. And that's why, you know, it was important when I left that I felt she was on the right trajectory.
Yeah. Wonderful. And thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful story. Dancing with Diana is out now, and studio audience, guess what? You're all going home with your very own copy today. I knew you guys would like that.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.